Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I want to sit down and really talk about Mario Kart 64, because this is one of those games that almost everyone has an opinion on. Whether you grew up with it, played it at a friend's house, or discovered it much later, Mario Kart 64 has this legendary status that's hard to ignore. But the big question I kept asking myself while replaying it was simple. How well has it actually aged after all this time? Not just in terms of nostalgia, but as an actual game you pick up and play today. The moment you boot it up, there's this instant wave of familiarity. The menus, the music, the character select screen, it all feels iconic. But once you get past that initial nostalgia hit and actually start racing, you begin to notice things that feel very different compared to modern Mario Kart games. And I think that's where the conversation gets interesting, because Mario Kart 64 doesn't play the way people often remember it playing. The first thing that really stands out is the sense of weight and momentum. Karts in Mario Kart 64 feel heavy. Turning isn't instant, drifting isn't automatic, and you really have to commit to your lines. When I first jumped back in, I caught myself overcorrecting constantly, especially on tighter tracks. Modern Mario Kart games are much more forgiving, with smoother handling and clearer feedback. In Mario Kart 64, if you take a corner wrong, you feel it immediately, and it can cost you a lot of speed. Drifting in particular feels very different here. It's not the flashy, boost-heavy system we're used to now. Instead, drifting is more about maintaining control and setting yourself up properly for the next straight. When you finally get back into the rhythm, there's something really satisfying about it. It rewards precision more than aggression, and once it clicks, the game suddenly feels much better than it did in those first few races. Track design is another area where Mario Kart 64 really shows both its age and its strengths. The layouts are simple compared to modern entries, but they're also very memorable. Courses like Toad's Turnpike, Yoshi Valley, and Rainbow Road still stand out because they're built around unique ideas rather than visual spectacle. Toad's Turnpike, with traffic acting as a real hazard, creates chaos in multiplayer. Yoshi Valley encourages exploration and unpredictability. And Rainbow Road, that version of Rainbow Road is still one of the longest, most demanding tracks in the entire series. What surprised me on replay is how unforgiving some of these tracks are. There are fewer guardrails, wider punishments for mistakes, and less visual guidance. If you fall off the track, you really feel it. There's no quick recovery or gentle reset. That design makes races more tense, especially in single player, where maintaining momentum is everything. The item system also feels very different from what we're used to now. Items in Mario Kart 64 can feel brutal. Blue shells are devastating. Lightning can completely destroy your race, and there's less of that modern rubber banding safety net. Sometimes you can play really well and still lose because of a bad sequence of items. Other times, a single well-timed item can carry you from last place to first. From a modern perspective, this can feel frustrating. The game doesn't always feel fair, but at the same time, that chaos is part of its identity. Mario Kart 64 leans hard into unpredictability, especially in multiplayer. When you're playing with friends, those unfair moments often turn into the most memorable ones. The screaming, the laughing, the controller shaking reactions when someone gets hit right before the finish line. Speaking of multiplayer, this is where Mario Kart 64 truly shines, even now. Split-screen multiplayer is the heart of this game. 4 players crowded around a TV, arguing over screen peeking accusations, celebrating cheap wins, and holding grudges between races. That experience is timeless. Even today, the game holds up incredibly well in a social setting. The simplicity of the mechanics means anyone can pick it up quickly, but the skill ceiling is high enough to keep things competitive. The battle mode deserves special mention too. Block Fort, Double Deck, Skyscraper, these arenas are iconic for a reason. They're simple, readable, and perfectly designed for chaos. Modern Mario Kart games have added more modes and mechanics, but there's something pure about Mario Kart 64's battle mode. It's fast, intense, and incredibly satisfying, especially when played with people in the same room. Visually, this is where Mario Kart 64 shows its age the most. The low-resolution textures, polygonal characters, and blurry environments are impossible to ignore. Compared to modern Mario Kart titles, it can look rough, but there's also a certain charm to it. The bright colors, exaggerated animations, and clean track layouts still work. It's easy to read what's happening on screen, and that clarity is more important than visual fidelity in a racing game. The music, on the other hand, has aged beautifully. The soundtrack is instantly recognizable, catchy without being annoying, and perfectly matched to each track. Even after all this time, those tunes get stuck in your head, and they add so much personality to the experience. Sound effects are simple but effective, and they communicate exactly what you need to know during a race. When it comes to single-player content, Mario Kart 64 feels a bit lighter by today's standards. There's Grand Prix, time trials, and battle mode, but not much beyond that. No character unlock trees, no customization, no long-term progression systems, and honestly, that's not necessarily a bad thing. The game is focused entirely on racing. You play because the races themselves are fun, not because you're chasing unlocks or grinding for rewards. That said, revisiting the Grand Prix mode highlights how tough the AI can be. Computer opponents are aggressive, and they don't hesitate to use items effectively. At higher engine classes, races become genuinely challenging, and winning feels earned. There were moments where I had to replay cups multiple times just to get a clean run, and that difficulty gives the game longevity. From a modern perspective, Mario Kart 64 feels less polished and less accessible than newer entries, but it also feels more raw. There's less automation, less assistance, and fewer safety nets. You're more responsible for your performance, for better or worse. When you win, it feels great. When you lose, it stings, but that's part of the experience. Nostalgia definitely plays a role here, but I don't think Mario Kart 64 survives purely for nostalgia. Yes, some elements haven't aged gracefully, especially the visuals and certain physics quirks, but the core gameplay, the track design, the multiplayer chaos, the sense of speed and risk still works remarkably well. Replaying it today reminded me why it left such a strong impression in the first place. It wasn't just a party game, it was competitive, unpredictable, and sometimes downright cruel. And that edge is something modern Mario Kart games have smoothed out over time. So, how well has Mario Kart 64 aged after decades? I'd say it's aged unevenly, but honestly, that's part of its charm. It's not the easiest Mario Kart to go back to, and it's not the most refined, but it's still incredibly fun, especially with friends, and it still offers a distinct experience that newer entries don't fully replicate. If you've never played it before, it might feel rough at first. If you grew up with it, revisiting it feels like reconnecting with an old friend, one that hasn't changed, flaws and all. And sometimes that's exactly what makes it special. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Mario Kart 64, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments how you feel about this entry compared to the newer games. I'll see you in the next one.